Hi, this is Josh Nankivel from pmstudent.com. Peter asked me to do a guest blog post for AgileScout.com, and being the contrarian that I am, I decided to do a video instead, just to spite you. Sorry, Peter. But there are a couple questions that Peter wanted me to answer, and so I thought I'd do it in one of the ways that I love to do things in mind mapping. So, Peter asked about my background, specifically with Agile. In general, I started out in the tech support area, moving into training and then into management. Kind of after that, moving into like a jack-of-all-trades type of position, doing process re-engineering and development and things like that. And then finally getting into project management and system engineering. And kind of throughout the entire process of my career, I've been a self-taught developer. I don't have a degree in computer science or anything like that. All of the programming that I've done has been self-taught. A lot of it's been database heavy. So, and I've been in different industries. I've been in when I was in tech support, I worked for Gateway Computers, so computer manufacturing. I've been in telecom. I've been in financial services, and I'm currently in aerospace. Probably another industry or two that I forgot about in there somewhere. Okay, so that's kind of my background in terms of that. Now, when I started using Agile, was kind of in this jack of all trades, moving into project management type role. I think the first time that I used Agile was probably in 2005 or 2006, and it was Scrum that we were using, and I was on a project team. I was kind of a senior, a lead on that team. Now, in terms of Agile itself, kind of how it's evolved, how it's changed since I've gotten used to it. When I first started using it in 2005, 2006, it seemed like relatively few people knew about it, and so if you were to talk to someone, even in the project management space, about Agile, they didn't really know what you were talking about. So I think it's getting more popular. There's broader application going on, so initially Agile was really just a software development methodology, and I think more and more it's getting recognized that it does have value for other processes, other types of projects, other industries, not necessarily just focused on software development. It can have applications elsewhere if you tweak it a little bit. One of the downsides, I think there is more dogma going on with Agile and more sectarianism, just in terms of people, and this has happened in project management for years and years as well, where people get, really bought into a particular way of doing something, and so, people get into fights about the right way to do Agile and what is Agile and what's not Agile, and from my perspective, that's kind of a bad thing. It's good to hash these things out and have discussion and debate, but sometimes people can get so bought into their particular way of doing an Agile implementation that they tend to put the blinders on, and when new research comes out or a new process is invented that really changes the game, they might miss the bus on that because they're kind of stuck in their ways. So that's one of the things that I have seen is a little bit more dogma, more sectarianism going into Agile essentially. For me personally, well, before I get to that, I think I'm seeing a lot more Agile PM vendors in terms of software, that collaboration tools and tools that are designed to help teams do Agile, and there's more Agile training out there, which I think is really great. For me personally, I've started to move away from the time boxing that I was very familiar with in Scrum, and more into I'm using Kanban now, which I absolutely love, and so I'm moving away from the time boxing and more into a continuous flow of activity and of work and of deliveries essentially. So this lean process that has been around for a long time. I know there's a lot of people like Hal McComber probably. I could think Glenn Alleman more than likely as well. Just in terms of the way that teams have been doing iterations of things in an Agile-like fashion for many, many years. So, Agile is becoming more popular. That's probably the main thing. And then, people are starting to get more focused on it. There are more projects. There are more project-focused startup companies coming out, where the first thing that they do when they start the company, they've already got an Agile focus. They already know that that's the type of methodology that they're going to use. So that's definitely a change as well. But going back to like Glenn Alleman from Herding Cats and Hal McComber from Reforming Project Management, these are guys who have been using, Agile methods for a long time under a different name, just progressive elaboration or going through iterations and releases in their in the construction industry and in the aerospace industry, and then also the lean process, which Hal McComber is a big proponent of. So it's kind of it's all old, but it's all new type of thing going on. So, but for me personally, I've moved away from the time boxing to more of a lean flow and more of a manage the work in process and try to reduce the work in process, get people focused on one thing at a time, get that thing done before you move on to the next thing. A pull system, essentially, with my projects. So, and then where's Agile going? I guess I'd say that I'm hoping that we keep piling on the research in terms of real scientific research. I see a lot of people getting their PhDs and doing some type of an Agile focus on their research papers. So I just love that. Every time I read a lot of research papers in order to figure out the best way to do estimation for software, best way to work within teams, conflict management, things like that. There's a lot of great stuff that Agile in general opens up in terms of research projects. So I'm hoping to see much more of that as we go forward. I think that Agile probably will start moving. There will be pieces of it that move towards standardization. I'm definitely thinking with Agile, with the Agile Alliance and some other groups, that those may start turning into groups that also create standards and things like that for the Agile community, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. What I'm hoping, though, is that when standards come out, it's not simply like the PMBOK with the PMI, where the standard is really kind of this is the way that most projects run most of the time, or something like that is how they describe it. But it doesn't really talk to the best practices in the industry or the emerging trends in the industry. So I'm really hoping that standards that come out of any kind of Agile bodies will be focused on the best practices. And when we talk about a standard, we'll talk about a best practice standard, and not this is the way that most people do it. I'd rather see it be prescriptive than descriptive. And then Agile frameworks specific to industries, I think that's going to start popping up more and more. I think right now the Agile community is growing quite a bit, but it's still small enough that it's mostly focused on software development, and I think that's going to change. I think as the community grows, there's going to be offshoots. People are going to start seeing the benefit of using Agile methodologies in different industries, for different types of projects, for process engineering and manufacturing, other things like that. And so I think we're going to start seeing more offshoots, more specialized groups of people that are focused on a particular industry. So, and then more adoption on large projects is another thing that I expect to see. Right now, I think it's really difficult for most companies to implement Agile on very large projects. I work for a federal contractor for the U.S. government, and I run Kanban and Agile on my teams, but it doesn't really flow up into the rest of the project. I have to do a translation, essentially, between what I'm doing with my team and what the larger project, what the larger mission is expecting to see. I need to do that translation, that constant translation between the waterfall methodology that everyone else is used to and what I'm doing with my team. So I think that adoption on larger projects is going to become much, much bigger in the future. And some of, I'm seeing a lot of papers being written, presentations being done on doing Agile in large government projects, doing Agile on large projects where you have things like Scrum of Scrums and other techniques for basically, still having the small team that you need to have really to make Agile work properly. For my money, you usually don't want to go beyond 10 people, and some people say you can go up to 14 or so, but once you start getting beyond that 10 range, it gets kind of difficult to manage. So I think more and more we're going to have the large implementation of Agile coming to the fore, and again, hopefully more research on that and more examples, more case studies of those being successfully implemented. So, well, I think that covers the questions. Thank you very much. This is Josh from pmstudent.com, and Peter, I hope that the video works okay in lieu of a blog post. Bye.